Only the lucky ones.
You have to be a premium subscriber. There's an option on here, like for the podcasting host I'm with, there's an option to have like a premium membership, so you can put out episodes that people have to pay for. So that might be it.
Yeah, that's gold right there.
Okay. All right, yeah, so right when the music stops, I'll do a little intro, then we'll just hop back into it.
Okay, I'll just start talking anytime soon.
Okay, welcome. We are here today with the lovely Kelly O'Hara. This is episode 7 of the Of Stone and Clay show. I'm your host, Taylor Church. You already knew that. Kelly O'Hara, it's been so long.
It's been a minute.
We met a few years ago. Do you want to tell the people how we met?
I don't.
You don't? Okay. I'll tell them myself.
Oh dear.
Me and Kelly met, I want to say, I could be incorrect, I want to say we met on Tinder.
No, it was mutual.
Oh, it was mutual. Okay. I think I discussed this on another episode. For those who don't understand, mutual is basically Mormon Tinder, right?
It's true, yeah.
Right? Okay. Anyway, we haven't seen each other.
Because that makes it better.
It makes it so much better. Because, well, we don't need to get into that.
Yeah.
But, anyway, we haven't seen each other for a couple of years. Kelly has some interesting stuff she wants to talk about. I want to talk about. We were actually talking about some interesting stuff, but we weren't recording, and I was like, frick, let's get into this. So you were telling me for, was it about a year you were suffering from migraines?
So I was probably suffering from migraines for, it's hard to put a timeline on it.
Yeah.
Just because you never really know.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you think you're better, then all of a sudden it's worse than ever before.
Right.
So.
But you had about a year where things were pretty bad.
Yeah, I was pretty much bedridden for a year to year and a half.
Wow. So tell, I hear this all the time, and it bugs me, even though I don't get migraines.
Okay.
But I get headaches a lot. But
not the same.
No, exactly. But my dad gets migraines, and my sister gets migraines. But like I was telling you, they're not frequent. It's like my dad will get them in weird clusters where every few years he'll get like 2 or 3 in a week. But he was telling me, they're completely debilitating, and he will like get tunnel vision. Mm-hmm. And he said before he gets them, he gets a few little things that like he knows are coming on. Like he says his like he loses feeling in a couple fingers.
Oh wow.
And then like his vision starts to blur a little bit, and then he's like, when that happens, I got to get a bed. Mm-hmm. Like I got to get to a dark room, pop some pills, and be done, right? Yeah. And so I was lucky to never experience them, but I hear people all the time, they're just like, oh gosh, I have a migraine right now, so I'm just blah blah blah, and I'm like, no you don't. Yeah. You have a bad headache.
Yep.
So can you tell people like, what exactly does a full-blown migraine do to your body? For you specifically. Obviously, it's kind of different for everybody.
This is kind of an intense word, but it's paralyzing.
Yeah. Like
your dad explained, you get in a dark room, you're there, you try to pass out. Yeah. Or you pass out from the pain.
Right.
So it's way different than a headache, because a headache, you can still function with a headache, but with a migraine, you can't. Like it's maybe 2% chance that you can, but rarely you can.
Do you have any like little symptoms that start to come where you're like, crap, I think a migraine's coming? Or does it kind of hit you like a ship?
Well, I kind of get all different kinds of migraines. It depends where on my head the pain is. Mm-hmm. But when I first started getting migraines, it's kind of like the back of my neck. It wasn't really a symptom because it would just come on so quickly, and it's like would take out my eyesight, or create the world like would spin. Sometimes it's like I'm numb in like my limbs as well. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's just straight nausea that I'll feel. I don't know.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just kind of different.
That's crazy. So it's not like with a headache, even a really bad headache, it usually starts as like a mild headache and then it just kind of gets worse and worse and worse. So a migraine just kind of hits you like a ton of bricks.
For me, it does.
Yeah.
I mean, there are a few occasions where it's like slowly getting more intense, and I feel lucky when I get those.
Yeah, because you at least have time to like drive home and get in bed or whatever.
I mean, there's been so many times when I've been driving on the freeway and all of a sudden I'll hit.
Oh gosh.
And like there's one time I was driving and the road, like it seemed like it was just like looping around me. It was like, I am blessed I have not gone into any car accidents because.
So what do? Do you just exit or just pull off to the side? Like
sometimes I've had to pull off on the side and just like do what I can.
Yeah.
Other times I just like I force myself to. Usually I'm close by someone that I know's house, whether it's my parents or a friend of a friend. Yeah. Or whatever I can do, or a parking lot even. Yeah. Just to find some sort of solace from that.
For sure. So at its worst, how often were you getting them?
I was getting 2 a day, 2 or 3 a day.
Oh my gosh. And so would you have like a little period where it had subsided and you were fine?
I mean, every day was different. It wasn't like, oh, it's 9:30 a.m. Migraine's coming on.
But like if you had 2 a day, is your whole day just a complete black nightmare you don't remember? Or is it like you have a terrible bout and then you kind of come out of it, you feel better for a couple hours and then you get another one?
Yeah, it was like that. Sometimes it was, you just can't sleep and it comes on from like hours of not sleeping. Yeah. So that, I mean, that also caused it, but that wasn't the main cause of like the chronic migraines, you know? Right. So yeah, it's hard to tell.
Yeah. Ugh.
Yeah.
I've read a little bit about it, and from what I've read, and maybe you're probably more knowledgeable than me, but I've read that migraines are kind of like, they've kind of stupefied doctors. Like they don't really know the exact cause, and they don't really know like why they can't come on and why some people get them and some people don't. Is that right?
Yeah. Oh man, I mean, a little bit of a disclaimer. I hate medication. Yeah. I'm not a fan of doctors because I'm like, I'll just take a nap or I'll be fine.
Are you a little bit like holistic?
No,
You're just not about it.
I'm just independent. Like, I'll take care of myself. I'll do what I gotta do. Yeah. But it was getting so bad that I was starting to see doctors, and I had like all the CAT scans, all the MRIs, all these different types of tests, checking my blood every 3 weeks. And there was a time where I was taking like 7 pills a day as a guinea pig to see if any of that would work for me, and it didn't. Yeah. But yeah, doctors like don't know. Like I would go in, pay my copay for them to say the same thing. Right. Or I mean, how can they really check how you're like if you're progressing other than your word? Sure. And it's like, oh, let's give you a shot in the neck. Let's see if that helps.
Well, does it show anything on an MRI?
It didn't for mine, and that, I think that was also hard for me too. Is because I was in so much pain constantly.
But you can't really prove it.
Yeah. And so like when doctors are like, and it was hard on my parents too. I mean, it's a lot of money to invest for your health. Yeah. But if there's no answers, you start getting in your head and you're like, well, am I just making this up? Yeah. And then it happens again. You're like, there's no way.
Right. I'm in way too much. You're like, am I a hypochondriac or am I just seeking attention? And then you're like, no, I'm dying.
Which is a weird way to seek attention, but
sure.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow, that's great. So did you ever were you ever prescribed like really heavy narcotics for it?
They call them a migraine cocktail.
Okay. That sounds
fancy.
Nice. Yeah.
Where it was usually 3 or 4 pills and you would take it once. And then you'd have to clock out or things like that. Or like sometimes you'd have to go in and they literally would give you a shot in the neck or like a shot in the forehead as like a way to help.
And are they opioids or no?
I don't know, honestly. Yeah. I should have paid attention more, but I was like, this isn't for me. This isn't my style, which you can't really be picky when. Yeah,
but it wasn't in any way like addictive.
No.
Right. Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so walk me through this. We were starting to talk about this before we were recording, but so like for about a year, you said you were essentially bedridden. Like,
yeah.
For most days, you were just in bed all day.
Yeah, and yeah.
So you, I imagine you were in school and working at the time.
Yeah, I wasn't working while going to school, but I was in school. So I went. Okay, well, served a mission, came home, started getting really sick. But I'm the type of person where it's like, I'm independent, I got this, I'll push through. Because I want to achieve my goals, I want to do the things that I can. And for so long I was untouchable, and this was really my first trial, I guess you could say. And so I had every ounce that I could to push forward. But evidently, there's not, your pain takes over.
Yeah,
like
there was a demon in your head.
You physically cannot function. There's not a lot you can do.
Right.
So I was at school, and I was really sick that first semester back, but I was able to pull through. Obviously, it wasn't my best, but I still succeeded as a student. And then my second semester, like, I should have stayed home after Christmas break. I should have withdrawn from school, but I was stubborn.
Yeah.
Still am. And that's when it got really bad, where I think the stress of trying to keep up with who I was and who I thought I could be just...
Well, and you probably didn't want to be like a sick person.
Yeah.
Right?
Like, I just felt like that was an excuse. Like, everyone gets sick. Why can't you just suck it up?
Right.
You know, tolerate it.
Yeah.
And, and then it just spiraled downward from there.
But the reality is not everyone... Like, everyone gets a cold from time to time. Like, everyone gets the flu.
Which those suck, too.
Yeah,
I'm not downplaying that.
Wow. So you said that started to feed into, like, just a general depression, right?
Yeah. Because, like I mentioned, I am a very outgoing person. I am extroverted. I love people. I'm creative, and I like to try new things and create opportunities, and I was very active. Like, I played sports competitively. I was always doing something, and mainly, like, I think the motivation for that was FOMO,
right,
for lack of a better word. But and then having all that taken away from you, everything that you thought that you were, just stripped away, and you're left with nothing, and just you, and the failure that you felt is what will be defined as who you are and to your name. Like, how do you come back from that? Like, how do you
Well, and I feel like the tough part about anytime someone's like chronically sick, or even like a bad injury where they're in bed a lot and they're like maybe not in a ton of pain, but they're a little bit immobile or whatever, like, yeah, you're isolated. You're not talking with people as much as you used to, and also your mind just is spinning, right? You just
dangerous.
It's like all you can do besides watch Netflix for 12 hours a day,
if that, you know, like,
right, is just think and stew on your past and what you're going through, and
how did you get here? Why are you here? Why are you the one suffering?
Right, and it's funny, you never really stew on positive things, you know? You don't sit there and be like, oh gosh, I'm just so blessed. I'm so blessed.
Yeah, right.
You know? Yeah. You just focus on, like,
I mean, I think you try. I think ideally that's what you try to do. But when you aren't okay, it's hard. You're just not okay.
Yeah.
And I didn't understand that for a long time.
So were you kind of in denial for a while about, because obviously you had very obvious diagnosable, like, migraines. Yeah. But did you have a hard time coming to terms with, like, hey, maybe I'm also struggling in my head, like, mentally?
It took me a long time, I think, honestly, until just recently for me to accept that.
Like yesterday?
Like a couple months ago.
Okay,
honestly.
wow.
Like it, and so that was difficult because, like I said, I have a great life.
Yeah.
I had a great life. I had everything going for me. like why was I not happy?
Yeah.
At Kelly O'Hara, I was always like the happiest person in the room. I was always stoked about life. Like had lots of friends. Like everything that I could want, I had. And so why was I not okay? Why am I suffering? It's okay, I'm just sick. And that was kind of my crush. That was my excuse for not being 100%. And it wasn't until, because I just thought, oh, like I'll get better. But then months passed and it wasn't getting better.
Right.
And so that started the decline of my life, you know.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until one day I actually had a friend. She was my best friend at the time, and she kind of walked into my room and was just like, "Hey, you're not okay.
Yeah.
You're not the same person." Like, and those are hard words to hear,
Sure,
especially someone that your best friend tells you.
Those are hard words to say too.
Yeah, which I mean, bless her soul for being the best friend that she was to tell me that.
Yeah. How did you take that?
I just started bawling. I was like, I know. Like I don't know when I'm ever gonna feel like myself again.
Right.
And then later that night, like my dad came in and he was like, he's like, he says this, he's like, I don't know what happened to you. He's like, you used to be so happy and full of life, and I don't know what's wrong.
Yeah. That
almost makes me cry right now thinking about that, because I didn't know it was wrong either.
Right.
I couldn't accept it. I didn't have issues. I didn't have problems. I shouldn't have problems, but here we are. And that's when he suggested therapy.
And so did you like start going pretty soon?
Like I said, I'm very stubborn.
Yeah.
And also independent, where it's like I'll take care of myself. I've never been one to ask for help. I thought that was a weakness. I didn't need a stranger to tell me that I had issues and then not knowing me at all, trying to diagnose me or help me.
Yeah.
Like I was very stubborn in that way and selfish. But my dad, I think it was him. He set up the appointment and kind of the paperwork, but obviously you have to go voluntarily.
Yeah.
And so I called, and I had no idea what to do. I had no idea what to expect. I thought the people that went to therapists were like psychopaths, or like only the people that are insane need help.
Right.
And so like to me, this was a very low point in my life. Like I'd hit rock bottom.
Yeah.
In like the naive mindset of Kelly O'Hara.
Yeah.
But I made an appointment, and then I would cancel, or I wouldn't show up for like a month.
Yeah.
And then finally, like, to me, I was like, I'll just get it over with. Just go one time, it's good. And it was not a good experience.
Yeah.
Like I went in, and bless my therapist's soul for her patience. Like I mean, she told me this later on. She's like, I walked into that room, and she's like, I never once, she's done it for years, she has a master's and a doctorate, like I never not known what to do. And I was like, yeah, I can see that, because I once the door closed, it was just me and her, a stranger.
Yeah.
Like everything was coming to the surface of what I was struggling with, so I had to face it head on.
Yeah.
You know, and so I just cried just at the thought of being there, because I'm like, how did my life get to this point? How did I go from perfect life, everything is great, successful, happy, to
crying in a therapist's
room, losing friendships, not knowing who I am. And it was just an hour of me crying and her just like trying to ask me questions and me being very just like vague and like, not wanting to be there, having no desire whatsoever.
Wow. What a good use of an hour.
I know. I'm such a diva. I'm like a rat.
So, did you keep seeing her, or did you end up going to a different therapist?
No, I stuck with her. It's kind of when you have that gut feeling about someone that you need to, that they're good and they're supposed to be in your life. And I had that amidst everything. And I do still see her today. That was 3 years ago. And I've seen her off and on. It hasn't been constant, but like now she knows the insides and out of who I am.
Yeah.
My whole soul, like in heart, like she knows everything, and she knows we know how to work together.
Right.
And as much as that bad experience was, and like how negative I was towards that and towards the thought of that, like it has been the best thing for me. And I think anyone, whether you have issues or not, should go see a therapist.
Right.
In my own personal opinion, of course.
Yeah,
but
for sure. Well, it's like saying, you were saying like, I feel like only psychopaths go to therapy, right?
Yeah.
It's like saying only morbidly obese people should go to the gym.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah,
like
exactly.
like everyone would benefit from going to the gym, and everyone probably would benefit from going to therapy, as long as you know you have a normal, like, good therapist. You know.
Yeah.
Just
you need to find them.
Yeah, and just like anyone, like there's terrible therapists out there that are probably really intelligent people, but maybe shouldn't be in that field, or they just suck as people, you know. But ultimately, you want to talk to somebody that you connect with, and like you said, you felt like they should be in your life, right?
Yeah.
So
has to be a good match.
Yeah, for sure. That's cool. So after a while, the migraine started to subside a little bit, like it wasn't as chronic.
Right. I mean, it took a while,
Yeah.
and I don't know if I've just been able to I think a lot of things have gone into it, but they aren't as bad now.
Okay. So did you feel like once your physical health ameliorated, you were able to kind of come out of that depression, or was it kind of like a fog remaining as you got better?
Well, I think when I first met with my therapist, I keep wanting to say her name, but I can't do that, because she's like my best friend. But when she did diagnose me with depression and anxiety, like it's like kick in the gut. Like, are you serious?
Yeah.
Like, again, why am I here? How did I get here? And it was hard for a long time, just being like alone, isolated, basically, because whether it's like a good day with migraines, you still feel the pain from the mental illness.
Yeah.
Or if you're feeling all right mentally, your pain's the worst.
Yeah.
Or it was just both equally bad. And they played off of each other. So it's like, I'm depressed because I have a chronic illness, but also, do I have a chronic illness because I'm depressed?
Sure.
And it was just this vicious cycle of constantly being down on myself, never like seeing the light of day, and just wanting to give up fully. Just like, why am I here? Why do I have to go through this?
Yeah.
You know?
Did you, so are you on antidepressants or anti-anxiety stuff?
I am not now.
Did you ever try?
No, like I said, I'm not one for medication.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
we'll probably talk about that another time.
Yeah. No, what I was going to ask is, because I feel like not everybody experiences real depression, right? Yeah. But everybody experiences sadness and kind of depressive moments, and little bouts. And I think for people that don't suffer with real depression, they have this notion that you can just kind of like buck up and just kind of get through it, you know? Yeah. But what do you do, because you're not taking medication, you are doing therapy, but what else do you do to kind of, when you're experiencing a lot of turmoil and inner pain, what do you do to try to get out of it and try to feel better?
I mean, that's a broad question.
Yeah.
With loaded answers.
Load them up.
I wish there was like a one-size-fits-all for people that are suffering. And I know that like my experience is different from your experience, from someone else's experience.
I'm just talking about you.
Can you ask the question again? Like,
just what do you do, or what do you try to do to like get out of a funk? Because like I know for me, like, again, I don't really suffer from like real severe depression, but I definitely have had my bouts with the blues and, you know, some tough times, and there's lots of little things I do, you know. For me, like you, I kind of get energy from people, and so if I'm feeling down, like a sure way to feel better is to go hang out with friends. and just little things like that will make me feel better, and it doesn't like cure the issue, but it makes me feel better and kind of gets me out of a funk for a little bit at least.
Sometimes you need to just be distracted from the pain.
Yeah.
I think before I answer that, I think a big misconception about people that have depression or are depressed is that they're negative people.
Sure.
And that they just want to be sad, seriously, just be happy. Just have a positive attitude, and you'll be good. And that drives me crazy because it's like telling someone in a wheelchair, like, hey, it's easy, you have legs,
hey,
just get up and walk.
Just pop up.
It's fine, you know? And it's not like that at all, and everyone faces it differently. But for me, I learned that sometimes I just need to, I need to take some space, whether it's driving up to Idaho to visit family, some of my favorite people, and just taking a step back. I mean, there's just a lot of things. I don't know if it just depends on how I'm feeling and what I'm going through.
Right, sure.
You know, I don't have, okay, today this is how I'm feeling, let's go to my checklist and see all that, let's do what I can until I feel better.
Yeah.
It's really through having depression and anxiety, I've learned to myself of who I am and what I need.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's allowed me to be more in tune with my feelings.
Right.
And sometimes it's drastic and I just run away for the weekend.
Yeah.
Or sometimes let's go get a molten lava cake from Chili's and eat my feelings.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to bed early tonight, or I'm going to watch a show on Netflix, or let me call up a good friend, or hey, I'm going to throw a party, or I don't know, or I'm going to read a good book, or I'm going to create a new hobby, I'm going to create something. It's just different, and I wish I had a better answer for you, but
no, that's kind of how it is. That's a good answer, because the reality is it's a lot of different things, and it's probably taking you some time to figure out what those things are.
Yeah.
Right. Do you feel like you've become an overall, because you said you feel like you're more in touch with your feelings and your emotions, right?
Yeah.
Do you feel like it's made you a much more empathetic person?
Yeah, absolutely. I think before I struggled with mental health, I was kind of insensitive towards other people's needs, just because I was happy. I honestly didn't know what sadness felt like. I know that sounds silly, maybe kind of weird to say, but I had no reason to be sad, and I wasn't sad. And the only time that I was maybe down was with someone that I cared about was struggling with something, and I felt their pain, but dealing with this, and I think not just dealing with it, but also being open about it, just in the past years when I've started opening up about it, you realize that other people feel the same way, and that you're not alone, because for a long time, that is how I felt.
Right.
And it's hard not to feel that way, but I am definitely more in tune to other people's needs and see when other people are struggling, and it's allowed me to create these bonds with people that struggle too.
Right.
It's I don't know, it's just been a really cool experience.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. It's kind of it's almost like AA, these people that are struggling to fight off addiction and leave this kind of nasty world behind. They can forge all these new relationships and friendships with people because they've been through the same battle, you know. Yeah, that's really cool. Do you feel how do you feel like it's affected your dating life?
I mean, for a long time, I was acquiesced in the victim mentality, that this is happening to me, this is what it is, you either accept it or you accept it.
Yeah.
And it kind of goes back to not being able to accept that I had something wrong with me. Not even something wrong with me, that I was just struggling.
Right.
And so it has affected a lot of my relationships in good ways and bad ways, but specifically dating for a long time, and and still kind of now. Like I didn't date, or I'd only date people that I knew I would never end up with or never want to be with.
Right. Yeah, just really solid
awful.
guys.
Yeah, truly. And because how I saw it was, I'm never going to be enough for somebody. And it's kind of that self-loathing, like, I'm never going to be enough, so I'm just going to settle. Or like, no one's going to love me for what I've been through. This is baggage. No one wants that.
Yeah.
And
so you kind of lowered your bar.
Yeah. It's self-loathing. It was me feeling bad for myself. It was that vicious cycle again. I mean, it's a continuous vicious cycle, but I've learned to break through that.
Yeah.
You know, and now it's like, hey, no, someone would be lucky to be with me. Like, this would be great. You know, like, I am a catch, you know?
Yeah.
And so as learning myself, you learn the ins and outs of who you are.
Okay, that's cool. When do you feel like, for you personally, not like this is a rule of thumb, but if you say you meet some guy, he's a great guy, you're into him, and you guys kind of start to develop something, how soon do you feel like you want to talk about your struggles with anxiety and depression? Do you kind of like to get it out of the way, or just kind of let it come organically?
I mean, honestly, I haven't really dated seriously in a while.
Yeah.
And so I don't think there's like, all right, date number 5 or whatever. I think with any person that you trust and that you care about, like, there's a time and place to discuss things that are important to you.
Yeah.
I mean, with the last guy that I dated seriously, like, it was almost on our first date where we talked about a lot of things I went through.
Yeah.
And other people, it's like, I don't know, you just have to fill it up. But I've learned not to be ashamed of it.
Right.
That it's not a reason for someone not to be with me. It's more like, it's a pro.
Right.
Because for X, Y, and Z reasons. You know?
Sure. Well, it's almost like you were saying earlier, like, you wouldn't tell somebody in a wheelchair, hey, just get up, pal.
Yeah.
Right? It's almost like you just have diabetes.
Yeah.
Exactly. Or asthma.
It's true.
Or something. It's just something you have,
and
there's no reason to apologize for it.
Exactly.
And there's no reason to, like, I don't know, have all these qualifiers, like, well, like, here's why, or like, it's not blah 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 blah. It's just, this is something I have.
Yeah.
You know.
I've also been in a position where people, in a dating sense, have tried to talk about their struggles with me, which I embrace, but they use it in a way that almost like either pity or like, this is a reason why you should be with me because I'm being vulnerable and I'm telling you all these things. So like, you dare walk away. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so I never want it to come off like that. Like, I think a lot of times as humans, we're addicted to talking about our struggles. As it's our crutch for not reaching our potential or not being the best that we can be, even though that's not true.
Right.
Like, I think you're even more because of what you've gone through.
Right.
And so, just with dating, like, I never want it to come off that way. I think when you understand someone's heart is when you love them the most. And when you're ready to be vulnerable and let someone in, I think when I feel that with the right person, right time, like, it'll happen.
Yeah. I like that quote though, don't you dare walk away. I'm going to use that. I'm going to start saying that on first dates. Like,
don't you dare.
Hey, this is my story, blah, 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 take it or leave it. But seriously, don't you dare walk away.
5 hours later, she's asleep.
She's not walking away. That's fine. Okay. What else? I wanted to ask, do you feel kind of this, like, this major difference between depression and anxiety, or do the two kind of flow together, like, and just kind of cause that general, like, despondency?
I think depression is more about your past affecting your future, and which, yes, can lead to anxiety, but I think anxiety is more fear of the future.
Okay, yeah.
So, like, for me, I think why my depression hit so hard is because being the person that I was to then the person that I had become was the exact opposite. And I felt, I mean, also with that year to year and a half of being really, really sick, I felt that I had missed out and that I had to make up for my life. Or that also another reason why someone would want to be with me, like I'm not done with school or I'm not this.
Yeah.
And like, it doesn't mean I'm less successful. My life just took a different detour than I had originally planned, but it's okay.
Yeah.
You know? And I think with anxiety, it plays a part into that. It's like, okay, like I'm afraid to be happy now because what if I'm so happy and then boom, depression hits and I'm like the exact opposite.
Yeah.
Like miserable.
Right.
You know? Which, I mean, there are qualms about that, but you can't like settle with that. That makes sense.
Yeah. You were saying beforehand you had some things written down from your journal. I want to hear some stuff.
Oh, I was just gonna say them as we talked.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't really have anything else.
No, just did you have any experiences that just were like, when you think about kind of your darkest days, do you have something that kind of comes to mind, just like what, just kind of a sick, like unhealthy thought that was kind of on loop in your head?
That I would never be good enough.
Yeah. That
I put myself in a box that, okay, this is your limitation. This defines you. This is the victim mindset.
You've hit your glass ceiling.
Yeah, like you've had the glory days. Like this is where you are now. Accept it or accept it.
And this was at the tender age of like 23, 22?
I mean, I think that thought has been the darkest thought that has continued with me. And still even last week I felt the same way. I'm never going to be good enough. Right. Whether it's for a person that I'm dating or whether it's for what I want to achieve in school or my own personal goals or life, like I'm never going to be good enough. This is the box that I'm in and I'll never be good enough. Yeah. You know?
Do you think that's that thought is exacerbated by social media? For you personally, like obviously it definitely affects a lot of people, but
I mean, I'm not gonna sit here and lie to you, be like, it does not affect me at all.
Yeah.
I think like I am untouchable, like don't even
can't
like,
touch me, Instagram.
No. But I have a love-hate relationship with social media.
Yeah.
I'm not addicted to it, so I'm grateful for that. But yeah, I mean, there's times I get on and I'm like, okay, this person's traveling here. Why am I not doing that?
Yeah.
Or this person's married with kids. Why am I still single?
Yeah.
Or, I mean, it's so easy to compare your life.
Right.
But you just can't do that because everyone's journey is so different. Yeah. And that's something that I'm also learning. Right.
Well, it's funny, like, I have like the opposite, right? I'll have like married friends that comment on my stuff and they're like, oh, your life looks so fun. Like I'm so jealous. Like you were in Europe and you're off playing spike ball in Boston and then you're at the beach and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, but I have no one that loves me.
I mean, but you do, but yeah.
Right, but I have no one. I go to bed by myself at night.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't have children that are just learning to say dad. You know? Like I would trade that in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
You know? But and it's not like I say that I do not under any circumstances have a glamorous life. I just like to have fun, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, people see what they don't have and it instantly is valued more than what they do have in their head, at least, you know?
Yeah. I remember I messaged my cousin. I was like, hey, I'm coming up to Idaho. And she's like, oh, what are you coming for? I was like, honestly, I just want to get away. She was like, oh my gosh, you are so single. And I was like, I didn't understand what she said at first. I was like, okay, I get it now.
Yeah,
I can do what I want.
Right.
Which, it's great.
Yeah,
and I'm not complaining about it.
Right.
I love it. But also it's like I still have desires and I still want things that you have.
Yeah.
But doesn't mean my life is less.
Sure.
Doesn't mean it's a checklist and it's like you're at this level, you're at level 10 and I'm still at level 3.
Right.
It's not like that.
Yeah. I think it's important to try to get to the point where you realize that even if there's things you're working towards and you want in the future, whether it's a spouse, a job, a degree, whatever, like if you're not happy now, you're probably not going to be happy when you get those things, right? Like you need to become happy now, and then it's a bonus when you get those things. Like you're even happier, hopefully.
Yeah.
But it's like, if I'm miserable now as a single person, I'm going to be a miserable married person.
Yeah, exactly.
You know? And I think some people think they're just chasing this brass ring, like, if I can just find love, I'll be happy. That's all I need.
But then, like, you get that and it's something else you're chasing.
Right, exactly.
If I could just get that raise at work, or if I could just do this, like, it's...
There will always...
the grass is always greener.
Yeah, and there will always be, like, even if you're the richest person in the world, there will always be things you don't have and things you want and things that are out of your reach, you know? Like, even if you have, like, an amazing spouse, amazing family, you're the richest person in the world, like, there's still, like, probably certain... like character traits you wish you had. You wish you were more patient. You wish you were more disciplined. You know, you'll never have everything you want.
Yeah, it's true, but I think we listed a lot of tangible things that what should make you happy, but I think it's also becoming who you're supposed to be, becoming your best self, and like your character is what shines through above all.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people forget that because social media, no one's gonna post their bad days.
Yeah.
And like, so no one's gonna know, like, on my darkest days, no one's gonna know how I feel or what I'm doing. But but also at the same time, on the other side of the spectrum, it's never gonna show how happy I am or like how much I truly care about these people in my life, because it's emotion. Like I cannot put into words what they mean to me.
And it's just, it's oversaturated. It seems like you post a picture about like, oh, I'm so grateful for my family. Everyone's like, yeah, big deal, so am I. You know, like, it's Thanksgiving week.
I mean, someone's always going to have something to say, good or bad, for what you post or who you are, but that's life. Yeah,
for sure. Okay, so what... I want to take a little bit of a positive spin here. So what is something that somebody does for you or can do for you that just makes you happier than anything? Like whether it's a friend, you know, your sibling, your mom, just something someone does that just means the most to you.
My love language is quality time. And one time...
So sleepovers.
I mean, those are a hoot. Yes, right. I'll just give the example of my mom. Like, one time I went through a really bad heartbreak, and, like, I was with my roommates and also my friends, and they texted me, and I was like, this is what happened. And they're like, okay, I'm on my way over. Yeah. Brought all my favorite food, like, had a great night. And then my mom at 11 o'clock at night shows up, knowing how bad that I was, like, struggling. Yeah. And, like, spent that time until, like, it was okay, you know, because, and to me, that meant the world to me, because I felt that I was enough in that moment. Yeah. That I was good enough for you to take time out of your day to cancel any plans that you had and come to me. But also then, like, you create memories with that. Right. And, yeah.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, it's not like you're like, Mom, I need you to come over and fix my problem and make me feel better.
It's like, I'm not expecting anyone to go above and beyond for me.
But it's just like, you were there for me when I needed you, you know?
And that, goes a really, really long way.
One of my best friends I've lived with him on and off for a long time. And one time he was going through a pretty nasty breakup. And, you know, one of these just on again, off again, on again, off again. Totally. And I think it was finally off again, and he felt the weight of the, like, just it being so, like, terminal, like it was donezo. And I woke up and I was going to the bathroom, and he's kind of puttering around the house, and he sees me, and I hadn't really known what had happened the night before, and he just told me that it was over or whatever, and he just started crying, like big dude, like 6'2", 210, 220, big dude, just started crying, and I just hugged him, and we just kind of hugged for, you know, longer than two men should hug. And then he just kind of felt better, you know, and it wasn't, he didn't need me to talk him down from a ledge or to give him any grand advice. He just needed me to be there, you know, and I mean, luckily I was literally just right there. But yeah, I feel like I'm the same way. Like, my love language is definitely quality time as well as physical touch, which is what every guy's love language probably. But yeah, I just, when I'm going through stuff, I don't really care that somebody does something for me specifically. I just want them to be there.
Yeah.
You know?
Like, I'm not picky with, oh, you have to do this for me, but like, from your own heart, if what you can, that means the world.
And I heard this quote a while ago. It might have just been from a movie or something. I can't remember. But someone said, like, when family, like, asks for help, you don't ask why or what, you just go. And I feel kind of the same thing with, like, your friends. Like, with your friends that are so close, they feel like family, right? It's like, when they need something, you're not like, well, dude, can't we do that, like, next weekend? Or like, I don't think, like, because I have this thing. You're just like, okay, where do you need me? You know? And obviously sometimes it's hard to have that mindset because you're busy and you have your own stuff to deal with. But I just kind of like that idea. It's like, when a friend or a family needs you, you just say, where? You know, when? You know?
Yeah.
So
I think with that being said, that just brought to my mind that I feel like mental health nowadays is such a taboo topic. Like, I feel like we need to break the stigma that, oh my gosh, I can't talk about it. Like, if someone says, like, I'm just having a hard day, or like, I'm depressed, like, people are like, oh my gosh, like walking on eggshells, like, okay, I will leave you alone, or like, what do you need? And it almost seems fake, like, and I think what you mentioned, like, just being there, just like, hey, I don't know what you need, but this is what I can offer, or like, let me know. You know, and like, I fear because it is taboo and it is uncomfortable sometimes to talk about and to bring up, or I mean, people that have never suffered with mental health, it's hard to understand. Like, you can't understand something that you haven't personally gone through. And like, when I was struggling in the midst of my hardest days, I was still living with my parents, and they wanted to help. They had great intentions, but I didn't know what I needed. I didn't know how I was feeling half the time, and they didn't know how to help, and it did cause a lot of rift in between us, because I'm like, well, you're never there for me, and like, they're like, well, I don't know what to do, and really, I just needed someone to just say, like, I'm here. And I don't want us as a society to get, like, create like a lackadaisical manner of how we treat people with that, or like, oh, it's too hard or too uncomfortable to talk about, or I don't get that, and so I'm just gonna step back, because that's not gonna help anybody.
So how would you propose, say we live in a perfect world, what is the best way to kind of destigmatize that?
I think honestly it starts with just being open with how you feel. Like, the phrase, it's okay to not be okay, like, preach it. It really is not okay, because no human being is on 100% all the time. But we create that stigma that it is, that everyone is 100% all the time, or like, you have major issues if you have a bad day. You know, and so I think talking about it and just being real with who you are and accepting that, which I'm still working on, helps others to also open up, and I think it just creates a pattern and like a domino effect that people are okay with who they are, and you create a community of that peace, that solace, that comfort, or just even that team or that group, so you're not alone.
And I like to imagine it kind of like this. It kind of helps me empathize with people better, and just kind of love people more, like, unquestionably. But I view the world, instead of viewing it like okay, we have happy people and depressed people, right? I view it like this huge spectrum where on the left we have like the supremely happy, the oblivious child, like you're on a roller coaster, happy, ecstasy, euphoria, right? All-time great. Maybe not sustainable, but it's great. And then on the far right, you have severely depressed, you have the suicidal, the just absolute hopelessness, right? But I feel like the human race is everywhere in between. And I feel like we think we have healthy people, sick people, happy people, sad people, you know, undepressed, depressed. But in reality, like everyone's somewhere on that spectrum. Like I feel like very few people are on the hard left and hard right.
Yeah.
You know, and so once you realize that, and you see people's plights, you see that okay, this person is going through something. I may not understand it. I may not have gone through it, but they're somewhere on that spectrum. And so I think it's just easier to have compassion for them when you see it like that.
Yeah, and I think that's what makes it difficult is because it's mental. It's mental health. Yeah. It's not visible.
Yeah.
And so is it really there?
Right.
And people like if it's not visual, it's not as important.
Yeah.
But like if someone breaks their leg, you're going to take care of them.
Yeah.
Like you need to go see a doctor.
Right.
Or like if someone has the flu, they rest for a week or however long, you know, like it's different for everyone else depending, same as physical pain, but it's just in your mind. Yeah.
Yeah. And it can kind of dovetail into physical pain if
Absolutely.
It's, you know,
Absolutely.
And so, yeah, it's really important to see that. What was I going to say? This is all good stuff. This is good stuff.
I'm not used to being this open, so.
How's it feel?
It's kind of weird. It's weird. I mean, I've talked about this stuff with like close friends, one-on-one.
Right.
But like, I don't know who's gonna listen to this. I don't know.
Everyone in the United States.
The world.
And the world. Tell everybody how much you slept last night.
I slept for 3 hours. I went to bed at 7 a.m.
You went to bed at 7 a.m. Why did you go to bed at such a heinous hour?
Because my least favorite thing in the entire world is being vulnerable. It's true.
Yeah.
It's so ridiculous to say that.
You'd rather get in a fist fight.
Yeah. Bring it on. Like, hold me back.
Wow. Okay.
But like being vulnerable is hard for me. It's not what I'm used to.
It's not your natural like default setting
to
just like share.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I know that I'm working on it.
Yeah. Well, you're doing great. Do you feel like this has been a terrible experience thus far?
No, I just like I'll probably listen to it later and be like, I said all that. Oh my gosh.
You're like you like text me, can we edit out just like everything I said?
Yeah.
No, I think it's great because I think along with this idea of destigmatizing mental health and different struggles people are going through, I think it's important for people to try to be more vulnerable. I think there's a lot of value in it. I feel like a lot of problems in relationships come from people not willing to be vulnerable. Yeah. Not willing to share what they're really going through, and they just want to kind of tell you the easy response, the easy answer, the leave me alone answer. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel like you've improved drastically with being vulnerable over the last couple of years? Or do you still feel like it's a big struggle?
I mean, I am a genuine person and I do care a lot about people. But for me to just blank stare, this is how I feel. Mm-hmm. Because for a long time, I didn't know what I was feeling, so I didn't understand my own feelings. And I think that comes with it.
Yeah.
but like I said, as I've increased in who I am, that there is a lot of confidence that comes with that.
Yeah.
But also, I mean, it's still scary.
Yeah.
It's still, like, it's not easy. It's not easy for me to, like, hey, you could really hurt me right now, but, like, this is what's up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just, like, you like, self-sabotage your own progress because you don't want to feel a little bit of pain or risk the potential of that.
Yeah,
sure. You know, it could be really great, or it could sting a little, but you're going to be okay.
Yeah. And I think people always think, they hear the word vulnerable and they feel like it's only talking about like a relationship between like man and woman, or whatever. Mm-hmm. Woman and woman, man and man, whatever. But I feel like vulnerability is crucial, like with just you and your friends and you and your family, you know, like it's being more communicative, and it's like, I feel like it opens up more channels of love when you're able to open up and tell people how you really feel and what's really affecting you. And it doesn't always have to be negative, like, oh, I'm struggling with this. Like, you can be vulnerable about being like
your dreams.
Your dreams, or being like extremely happy or whatever. And that's really good too.
I know, I feel like when you're vulnerable, it's showing your scars to the world. Mm-hmm. When the world's idea of perfection is like a clean slate, but you have, and everyone does.
Right.
We have scars, but what I've learned is that scars are just wounds that have healed, and they just remind you of what you've been through and the strength and courage that came from it, instead of a weakness.
Yeah. Wow, that's good. That's good stuff.
That was deep stuff.
That was deep stuff. We might have to clip that. Let's see. Is there anything you want to ask me, the host?
I guess, I mean, you haven't personally struggled with mental health, right?
I don't think so.
Not severely.
Right? I don't think so. Like, I would honestly be interested to meet with a therapist and kind of be like, hey, you know, just tell me, you know?
What are my issues?
Right. Because, like, I also, and I might be wrong, but I feel like depression is a lot of times kind of genetic, or at least
absolutely.
There's elements to it, right? And, you know, I know there's people in my family that have struggled with it, and so sometimes I feel like, I had a girl I was dating a while ago that asked me, she's like, do you feel like, are you worried that you'll struggle with depression too? Mm-hmm. And I was like, not really, because I feel like I've had moments where for like half a day or a day, I'm like, frick, dude, I'm depressed, but I get out of it. Yeah. Like, I feel like I never really stew in it too long. But also a lot of times depression, like bad depression, is triggered by something really bad happening, right? Mm-hmm. It's like,
sometimes you just wake up and there's a cloud over your head.
Sure.
You can't explain it.
Yeah, but it's like a lot of people, they'll probably be fine, but it's like down the road, you know, a spouse passes away, or their best friend dies, or they lose their job, or have a catastrophic injury, you know, and those things can get things spiraling. So I feel like for now I'm chilling, you know, like, I'm a pretty happy dude. And like I said, I feel blessed that there's so many people in my life that care about me. And I derive so much energy and happiness from them. So I feel like no matter how bad it is, like, I just can't stay down too long. But I could be wrong. I'm open to being wrong. Yeah.
So with that being said, how has it affected your communication, or how do you think people could better respond, not having experienced mental health, with people that struggle severely with it?
So you're asking, like, how can a person that doesn't struggle with it kind of relate and empathize with someone who does?
Yeah.
I would bring it back to what I said about the idea of it being on a spectrum, right? Because I view it as, well, I may not be really depressed, but I've had some dark days. I've had some bad moments, and so it may not be as intense, it may not be as visceral, but I can relate with these people. Like, I just try to imagine it like I've never been chronically sick, right? But I've had the flu.
Yeah.
You know? But so I can imagine having the flu every single day, and it's a nightmare, I would imagine. You know?
Yeah.
Like someone who's like in the trenches of like chemotherapy or leukemia or something, and they're just wretchedly sick. Like, I've never been there, but I can imagine it because I've been normal sick.
Yeah.
You know? And I think everyone has been like quote unquote like normal depressed, right? Yeah. They've been,
everyone's had a trial.
Yeah,
in life.
Yeah. Everyone's had a trial, but also like everyone's
just sliding through, like
everyone's
lucky.
Everyone's had thoughts of like,
inadequacy.
I'm kind of a piece of crap, or like I can't do anything. I can't do anything right. Like, I sometimes get down on myself because I have zero ability to fix things, right?
Okay.
Like I am not a man in that capacity. Like, if something's going wrong with my car, like I can fiddle with it for hours, can't fix it. Like, something's wrong with my computer, I gotta call somebody. Like, if you give me a hammer, I can barely put a nail on a wall, right? And sometimes like something will be broken and I'll try to fix it, even though I know I can't. And I'll just be like, dude, I can't freaking do anything. And it'll kind of spiral real quick, and it'll be like, well, if I can't even freaking change my tire, like, how am I going to take care of my wife? And how am I going to teach my kids, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And I don't even have a wife. I don't even have a girlfriend. And it kind of starts to spiral. And it's like, dude, you just aren't great with a wrench. You know?
Yeah.
But it's easy. It's easy to kind of let thoughts get away from you a little bit.
It's easy. Yeah.
But yeah, I just try to view it as, listen, we've all been in bad spots. Like, so some people are just in a worse spot than we are. And I also look at it like, okay, when I have been in those bad spots, who are these people that have kind of buoyed me up and made me feel better? And what have they done? And it's like, if I can do that for somebody else, like, that feels amazing.
Yeah.
You know? So why not try to be that person for not just your friends, but anyone you freaking meet? You know, like, you might have very little influence. You might kind of come and go, but you can affect change on someone just by listening, just by being kind. You know, sometimes when people are having really bad days, the tiniest things make them feel better. You know, because they feel like they've just been beat to the ground all day, and then someone says like, "Oh, hey, you look nice," or whatever, and you're like, "Oh my gosh, me, little old me, you mean that?" You know. I had a cool experience the other day. This is gonna come off as like me being like bragging about being such a generous human being, but that's not the point. So I went to Smith's. I was getting some groceries late at night, and it's cold.
Yes.
It's like, it's starting to, it was like, it wasn't snowing yet, but it was probably like 20 degrees outside, you know. And there was this homeless guy outside, and he had a sign, you know, saying, you know, anything helps, blah, 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 whatever. And I have a tough time with the homeless because I want to help. I want to like be generous, but also like, I don't have a ton of money.
Yeah.
And also, the last thing I want to do is give them $5 and they go buy cigarettes, or they go, and that goes to their, you know, they go buy some crack. You know, I'm not interested in that. And so I will often, you know, if I like happen to have food on me, I'll give homeless people food or whatever. And I saw this guy just chilling outside of Smith's, and I was like, you know, I walked past him with a bunch of bags of groceries, and I'm just like, oh gosh, what should I do? Like, I want to do something, but I also don't want to feel guilty for not doing something, because you see homeless people every day. Like, you can't just give people something every time you pass. Right. But I kind of had a lingering feeling. And so I was like, you know what? I have this blanket in the back of my car that I just have there just in case, like, my car breaks down or something and it's cold. And my grandma, my sweet, beautiful, lovely grandma that passed away a few years ago, made this quilt for me. Because grandmas just make quilts.
Yes,
right?
Awesome.
And I was like, you know, this blanket has all this like sentimental value to it. There's like cartoons on it. She made it when I was like 8. And I was like, but you know what? Like, I think my grandma would rather me give it to this cold guy than just have it sit in the back of my car, you know? And then I had some gloves in my car, so I gave him some gloves. And this dude was so grateful and happy. And it just completely made my night, you know? It's like, it was a little thing, and, you know, what else could I do for that guy? Could I be his best friend? You know, could I give him a job? Probably not, you know? But it was just a split second where I thought, hey, this is something I could do for somebody, and I did. And I think if people try to have that mindset, like I said, obviously you can't just help everyone all the time. You also have to help yourself. But if you can have that mindset of like, less about like, what can the world do for me today? But more like, okay, as I go about my day, how could I help somebody today? How could I be kind to people today? Instead of just like, well, no, I need to go get my oil changed. I need to go to Target. I need to go to the bank, blah, blah, blah. If you kind of look at it more like, okay, I have these things to do, but today my goal is like to be kind to people and to maybe help somebody out if I can. Like, to me, that's I don't know, that's a great goal.
Yeah. Good for you.
Thank you.
That's awesome. It's really cool experience. I personally cannot give up a quilt that my grandma made for me, so major props there.
Yeah. And yeah, the other thing is like, it's so old and rugged and whatever, so I was like, you know what, it's fine. But yeah, what do you have trouble like connecting with somebody that you feel like is like super, super happy? Like, you feel like they can't relate to you? Do you feel like they're not deep enough, like they don't feel things as much? Because here's the thing, a lot of times I feel like people that suffer from depression, like you said, they really feel things, you know? Like they're kind of more, not always, but they can be kind of more passionate, more intense people. Like a lot of artistic people are like that, you know, a lot of like musicians and artists and writers like really have suffered from depression. And I think sometimes that mania can kind of turn into good creative energy. But I don't know, do you feel like you relate more with those people?
I remember, there were lots of nights where I'd cry myself to sleep and I thought depression sucked the life out of me.
Yeah.
But in reality, it's enriched it and it's given it a deeper meaning. And I think it's hypocritical to say that I can't relate with someone that's happy.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, yeah, I've been sad, but I'm also a happy person.
Right.
And so I haven't noticed a difference because, people bond more on more than just their emotions.
Sure.
And so I personally have not had that experience where I can't connect to someone that's super happy.
Yeah.
Sometimes, I'm human, and if someone's super happy and I'm not having a good day, I'm like,
right.
Get out of here.
This is moron.
Por favor, you know?
Yeah.
So.
You just start speaking Spanish when that happens.
Start going off in Spanish. That's how I feel better.
Okay, I want to wrap things up, but I wanted to ask, I really liked how you said, you know, for a bit it felt like depression was sucking the life out of you, right? But then you realized, I'm sure it wasn't overnight, but you came to realize that ultimately it's enriched your life. How so?
This might be a long answer.
Good.
So I hope you're okay with that.
Good.
I mean, in retrospect, you look back and you can see like the blessings there. You can see, like I mentioned earlier in this podcast, that I've learned who I am with this because it takes what I thought I knew and who I thought I was and really just added to it.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, to say I'm blessed is an understatement to be a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, because even in the darkest times, that gave me purpose.
Yeah.
And that was a catalyst towards my healing,
mm-hmm.
and towards just being okay, just being able to get up. And it's also enriched my life and given it deeper meaning because, and I hope I can articulate all my feelings properly right now, but it has helped me to be more sensitive to other people's needs. It's allowed me to see the good in people and also like embrace the goodness in life, because life is great.
Yeah. And
just because you struggle with mental health doesn't mean that it can't be that way. Doesn't mean that you have to be can't be successful. Doesn't mean that this is your crutch and this is your excuse to not reach your potential. And it took me a long time to learn that, but I see things differently. I don't take things for granted as maybe I once used to. I mean, patience is not my virtue, but I feel like I'm striving to become more patient with myself and with other people.
Yeah.
And kind of how you mentioned earlier, how there's like artists and musicians that struggle but have the greatest outcomes. I think that's what I'm doing, but like my life is my canvas.
Yeah, yeah.
And so yeah, I don't know if any of that kind of makes sense. It's
that
just,
all
like,
makes sense.
Word vomit.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm really great at that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's seeing things in a different view. It's able to communicate. It's able to have deeper and more meaningful relationships with substance instead of just surface level. I'm able to connect with people that would have been strangers or maybe we wouldn't have gotten along with. It's allowed me to be vulnerable, which I'm learning to not hate as much.
Doesn't look like you hate it. Looks like you do well with it.
I mean, I told you how I'm creating a website.
Yeah.
I'm in the process of that, and it's because I think this is my passion project.
Mm-hmm.
I think I've always wanted to help people. It's just been a natural instinct since I was younger to want that. And if I have a big vision for it. Like if I can help create a community or people that are struggling but don't know how they feel, maybe give them the words, or even just a friend, or I don't know, or even that comfort that, hey, I've been here, I get it. And it's not just me in this website that will be like sharing my story. Like anyone and everyone that struggled is welcome and willing to share whatever and how much they want. And so I think it's just about beating the stigma and not making it so taboo, but more normal, because it is normal.
Right. That's Kelly, that's beautiful. No, it really is. I feel like I'm just going to kind of conclude what I gathered from what you're saying. It's almost like you're saying all the bad stuff, all the darkness has just added like textures to you.
I like
right?
that.
Yeah, it's kind of like added layers to your psyche and to your soul, and you're just left a more interesting person, a more complete person, a more empathetic person, and I think it's great. There's this lyric I really like by Trevor Hall. Do you know who that is?
I don't.
He's a singer that his music is like technically reggae, but it doesn't really sound reggae. Like he has a couple songs that are kind of like that, but he's a white guy. I think, but he has like dreads, so I think people like just throw him in that category.
Dreads are awesome.
But he has this lyric where he says, "The dark is all around me, but I'm so glad it found me." And I remember hearing that and just thinking like, wow, like what a cool perspective, you know, to kind of be grateful for the darkness.
Yeah.
And to be glad that it found you, because I think most people are worried it's going to find them, you know. Mm-hmm. But so much of life is just your perspective and how you view things and being ready for things. And so, yeah, I think for all the people out there that are like worried about depression or being depressed or anxiety or, you know, any mental health issues, I think it's cool to say, like, bring it. It's fine. Mm-hmm. Like, I'll be a better person, you know?
I mean, hopefully, right?
Yeah.
That's what we're all striving for.
Right.
I like what you mentioned about the darkness, because you are in the dark.
Yeah.
I mean, especially going through it, or even now that I'm better, sometimes I'll still have days where I'm like, holy crap, like, what am I going to do? But there's so much empowerment in standing up for yourself in your lowest times. There's so much strength that comes from accepting and understanding who you are and using that to bless the lives of others, or to boost your own success. I remember one time someone said to me, it's one of my favorite people. I met her on an airplane. We met randomly, and she told me, she's like, no matter how dark the night seems, there's always a sunrise. And I love that, one, because sunrise is my favorite time of day. Mm-hmm. But two,
I've never seen one. I'm just kidding.
I was like, that's really sad. Because it is dark, and even though it's like, okay, I'm better, like, I'm good from the migraines, or I'm better from, have a handle on my depression or my mental health, that there's still going to be dark days, there's still going to be dark nights, but there's always going to be a sunrise. And that gives me hope, because I don't know how many times I'm like, oh, I just need a fresh start.
Yeah.
Like, I just, like, maybe if I do this, like, if I move, I'll fresh start. But every day is a fresh start. Every time you go through, like, a depressive state or a hard time or a panic attack or an anxiety attack, like, there's always that sunrise. Like, it's never, like, it's kind of like a slingshot. No matter how far you're pulled back, you can always move forward.
Yeah.
And I mean, I say this as I'm learning it. Like, I'm no pro on mental health, but that's just my own experience, what I have learned and gathered.
Yeah, that's great. Gosh, I wanted to share this other quote that came into my mind. Now we're just spouting out quotes.
I love it. Quotes are my favorite.
But I think quotes are great because a lot of people make fun of them. But I think quotes are great because a lot of times you've thought the exact same thing, but just not in such eloquent words. Mm-hmm. And so it's just like, that's what I've been trying to say.
Yeah, put the words into your mouth.
Yeah. Let's see. I'm just gonna look it up. I don't care.
Love it.
So I know who it's by.
It's like ASMR right now. The typing.
I'd say we'll edit it out, but we won't. Okay, this is by Albert Camus.
Okay.
French guy, kind of a philosopher type, but he wrote a lot of interesting novels back in the day. But he said, in the midst of winter, I found there was within me an invincible summer, and that makes me happy. For it says that no matter how hard the world pushes against me, within me there's something stronger, something better, pushing me right back. And I love that first line. In the midst of winter, I found there was within me an invincible summer. And I think that's kind of, maybe it sounds like super cliche or whatever, something to get stitched on a pillow, but I feel like it's true. I feel like all of us have kind of that next gear within us.
Yeah, absolutely. You know? Yeah, I think it just comes from never giving up.
Yeah.
Like, the best way I can explain it is, if you're in a foreign country and you don't know the language, you're not going to sit in your hotel room looking out the window the whole day. Like, you're gonna immerse yourself, you're gonna learn, you're gonna make mistakes. And I think that's what mental health is you have to keep going.
Yeah.
You can't just accept it and be like, oh, like, this is my vacation, this is my life, and I'm just going to stare out the window. Right. Like, you fight for it. When you find that respect for yourself and know that you deserve better and the best and that you are worth it, you fight for it.
Yeah.
And you learn more than you ever thought you could.
Yeah, that's a really good analogy. It's like, I'm trying to imagine myself like in like freaking.
Didn't you just go to Germany or somewhere?
Not recently, but it's like I'm trying to imagine some place where like no one speaks English, right?
Yeah.
Like I get dropped off in freaking a village in Siberia, right? I'm in a little Airbnb in Siberia, and yeah, the only way for me to get better is to get out and try to speak the language, to try to learn it, to try to communicate. But that doesn't mean it's easy. That doesn't mean like sometimes you just need that first step of just getting out of your Airbnb, getting out of your bed in your Airbnb. Because, you know, I know a lot of times people that are going through stuff, they're like, well, that's good advice, but can't do it. You know, I just can't do it. I'm not in the headspace to do it.
Just valid.
But yeah, but just knowing that if you can just put one foot in front of the other and try a little bit each day.
You realize it's not as bad as you think.
Yeah. Well, that's good stuff. Kelly, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Was this as nerve-wracking as you thought it would be?
When I listen to it back, I'll be like, oh my gosh, probably.
But that doesn't matter.
But I feel like, I don't know, I shared my experience, and I think that's what's important.
Yeah, good.
Doesn't matter what I think now, it's over.
Well, I think it was great. I think you shared a lot of really insightful stuff. It's like there's no lack of people out there that are struggling, but just to have one more voice to say like, hey, I'm going through it, I've been through it. There's not necessarily you do A and you do B and you feel better, but yeah, just kind of telling your story I think is a great thing. So thank you.
Well, thank you.
And yeah, listen, subscribe to the episode, to the podcast of Stone and Clay. We're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever the frick you're listening to it on. Rate and review the show. Follow me on YouTube. I'll be starting to post these videos of the interviews soon. Yeah, that's our girl Kelly. She's great. Look out for her website. Do you know what it's going to be called yet?
Yeah, it's called Hey Homie.
Hey Homie. HeyHomie.com?
Yeah, I mean, I'm still working on the domain.
Okay.
I have to double check everything on that.
I like that. Hey Homie.
Yeah, I feel like it's personal.
Yeah. No, that's cool. But you have an Instagram right now, though,
I do,
right?
yeah.
What is it? It's just
it's at HeyHomie_1.
Okay, so you're the first Hey Homie out there.
Hopefully.
Okay, I like
am number
that.
1.
Well, if you've learned nothing from this episode, go say hey to a homie. You know, make them feel better. Just say hey. Say hey to a homie. All right, thanks for tuning in. I love you guys. We'll catch you later.
Bye.
Perfect.
How was that?
It was great. What do you think?
It went a lot different than I thought it would go.
Yeah.
But,
how'd you think it would go?
I mean, I just had a lot of notes. You saw my notes.
Yeah.
I thought I'd be talking about the website part, so I was writing more of that down.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
No, it was.
Well, I figured
It was like my first time, like I said, talking about it, not with like a close friend or having that heart to heart.
Yeah.
It's like, hey,
hey,
everybody, like you don't know me, but here's my story.
Exactly. Well, I didn't want to get like. Here, we can stop this.
Oh.
I didn't want to get too talkative about the website just